Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Top Gun Maverick is the movie I finally watched because it came out on streaming, Paramount Plus, a movie that blew the doors off of the box office and theaters, just being one of the most successful movies of the year, one of the movies that really brought movies back to the theaters in a way, and a movie I kind of wish I had seen in a movie theater, right? I haven't been to a movie theater since before the pandemic. Basically just review whatever becomes available through streaming, and this one I've been avoiding hearing about. Obviously heard nothing but good things about. I enjoyed the first Top Gun that was released back in the before time, the 80s, I think, when the first one came out. And to hear this one, I was excited, despite the fact that the movie, the director of this film, Joseph Kosinski, also directed a movie that I saw recently that came out on Netflix called Spiderhead. I absolutely hated that movie. That was a garbage movie, and which was surprising because this movie had already come out in theaters, and I'd heard good things, and this was another movie by that same director, so I was like, ooh, maybe this will be a fun action movie like I've been hearing Top Gun Maverick. Was not. Very, very laughable movie. Tonally all over the place. Did not like it. If you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on it, I did a review. This movie, however, I absolutely loved. It is a movie, I would say, very simple movie, this movie, right? There's not a whole lot of moving parts. By far a superior film to the first Top Gun movie. This takes place 30 years after the first movie. We have our lead, Tom Cruise, is the pilot Maverick, Pete Mitchell. If you had asked me what Maverick's name was in Top Gun, I would never have guessed Pete. Does not seem like, I don't know. It's weird to hear his name be used in this one. Miles Teller is Rooster, who is the son of Goose. We have Val Kilmer making an appearance, which I loved seeing Val Kilmer come back. We have Jennifer Connelly playing a character that was only briefly mentioned in the first film. Not the same love interest, obviously, that was from the first film, but a character that was mentioned as a previous love interest of, she was like the captain's daughter or whatever, that Maverick got into a relationship with before the events of the first Top Gun. So she is brought back as a love interest for this one. In a lot of similar ways, this movie does hit on a lot of the same beats. It has the rebellious nature and rule-breaking nature of Maverick. It has him breaking rules in similar ways. It has similar love scene type of things, but I think handled in a much better way. In every aspect, I think this movie executes at a higher level. Whether it's from just the writing, whether it's from the characters, the actual flying shots are amazing. The first movie, it is almost incoherent what each shot, what you're looking at, what these planes are doing, versus this one is amazing. And in very, very many ways, this is a Mission Impossible movie. This is a movie where Maverick is being brought back to teach the Top Gun course because there is an impossible mission that they need him to succeed, to teach these pilots to do, to execute, right? So it definitely has that same Mission Impossible vibe. But I loved it, man. It's so much fun. I've put this movie on at least 2 or 3 times since watching it the first time this past week, so it's, not necessarily paying attention, but it's definitely fun. The action scenes being put in the cockpit with these pilots as they're going, clearly you can see that they are flying, or at least, you can tell that Tom Cruise is probably flying a lot of the times. Loved it. There's a couple things that, I'll nitpick at the end of this review, but for the most part, obviously, an absolutely a blast to watch this movie. So much fun to watch this movie. I can understand why it did so well in the theaters. Definitely a movie theater movie. The talk that it's getting as far as being nominated or even having a chance to win Best Picture, I think is laughable. But crazier things have happened in the Academy Awards. I just, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely a movie, especially for an action movie. I think it's handled in a really great way. I think as far as action movies go, this is one of the better action movies that you will see, right? Because it is simplified. It's not trying to do too much. Like the first movie, I think, was definitely trying to do too much, and things didn't really fall into place as well as this movie. And this movie is all wrapped around the death of Goose in the first movie. Like, this movie explores how these different characters have been affected and changed by the death of Goose, specifically Maverick and Rooster. Rooster being the son, Maverick being his co-pilot from the first movie, the one that, they were doing a training procedure and Maverick lost control of a plane, and in ejecting from that plane, Goose died because he hit the canopy. And, heartbreaking from the first movie, but using that in this movie instantly gives everything stakes. Instantly sets these characters up in a way that makes everything much more important for them to survive. I mean, that is one thing clearly as Maverick goes to this be the teacher of Top Gun. His big thing is not just completing the mission, but for everybody to come back home alive. And every time during their training simulations that they mess up or they fail, he is telling them, what would you say to that person's parents that now just lost a son? Like, it is clearly something that has changed Maverick. It has completely changed him. And interesting to see how in the first movie Maverick was a lot like Hangman is in this movie, right? Hangman in this movie gets his name because he leaves his partners hanging, right? He kind of ditches things and goes rogue, which is something that Maverick did a lot in the first movie before this whole thing. Also, I love that Val Kilmer is still around. Like, Val Kilmer's character Ice is the reason that Maverick is recruited to teach these kids because he was the second best in the class where Ice was the first. And writes in great how, Val Kilmer, the actor, is suffering from a lot of things and is a very different man than he used to be and is clearly been damaged by illness and cancer and things like that. The documentary Val is great, but it's great to see him in this movie, at least in a scene. He gets a scene with Tom Cruise, mostly communicates through text messages. And then, in this movie, I guess some spoilers. In this movie, he eventually passes away, and when he does, he was the only person protecting Maverick from the military who did not want to do anything with him because Maverick is such a loose cannon at times. Let's take a little break from the show to promote the benefits of Inspired Disorder Plus. So you go inspireddisorder.com/plus. Sign up, $5 a month. You get to binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free. You get to watch all of the live painting videos I do. You get a special members-only discount and deals for all of the artwork and merch that I sell. You also get the complete podcast back catalog of every podcast I've ever produced, hundreds of episodes, countless different podcasts. You also get access to my personal blog. A new blog comes out every week. In addition to that, you get my creative writing that I'm releasing. You also get access to Asking Me Anything. 14 years of experience podcasting. I've been creating art my entire life. I've been using Photoshop since middle school, and you can contact me to ask me questions about that or anything else. So those are the benefits for signing up for Inspired Disorder Plus. And now let's get back to the show. But I love it, man. When he comes back to do that proof of concept run, right? They have this mission, and the fact that this is clearly a military propaganda, as the first movie is, the fact that the quote-unquote enemy is never really named. It is just an enemy of our allies. This is somebody that has obtained like nuclear grade plutonium, right? So going back to the weapons of mass destruction argument that George Bush lied to the American people about to get us into a never-ending war in the Middle East, right? It is very similar to that, where it's like, based on their intel, this enemy of our allies has these weapons grade plutonium, and we need to go take it out. So the fact that doesn't really go into naming, I mean, that is kind of what the military would dream. That is like their dream situation, to have this nameless, faceless enemy that they could just label as the enemy and never really get to know them in any way. But aside from the military propaganda, which this movie is, I think because it is kind of feels like a Mission Impossible thing, right? They're not going to kill people. They are going to destroy this place that this plutonium is being stored, right? And in doing that, it's in like this crazy like gulch or whatever, and they only have a certain amount of time. They have like these newer jets. They have all these missiles that are guarding the sky. And of course, just like in Mission Possible, there's one way they can get through. There's an air shaft, right? It's kind of in some ways even like Star Wars, where it's like we got to fly through these canyons really low to the ground. The max height is 100 feet off the ground, so insanely close to the ground, through these tight turns in this like river canal, right? So they can not be detected by the radar, not be detected by these missiles, and get to a place where they have to not only drop one set of bombs, but two sets of bombs into this place. So it sets up like, oh, okay, we know the mission's clear, what has to happen. So when they're training, it's clear. Whether you're watching Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11, you know what the objective is. You can see the training is fun. You get to have all those fun moments where Maverick is the teacher, and he's up in the planes, and he's pushing them to the limits, really riding on Rooster, somebody that he cares a lot for and has done a lot to protect, which a lot of those times in him protecting is really kind of hindered Rooster. So all of that stuff is great, right? Great flying scenes. But when he does the proof of concept thing after Ice is dead and he has to do it, definitely Tom Cruise makes, like, they have to get through this run in under 2.5 minutes. And his acting in that feels like he's doing the thing, right? Later on during the mission, it's way more relaxed. Like, they still have the same time restraints, but there is not that same intensity that he had, which is noticeable, right? Neither him nor the plane that's tailing him, right? Because they're going in groups of two, like they're paired off, two groups paired off. Him and I forget the call sign of the other woman, Phoenix. So Maverick and Phoenix. Phoenix is the pilot of the other one. And they kind of effortlessly do it. And then the other two groups are like way behind and somehow are not only able to catch up in time, right? Rooster, don't think, just fly, which is from the first movie, right? A lot of aspects from the first movie, little catchphrases like do that pilot shit, Maverick. Great use in this movie. Comes from the first movie. Don't think, just fly, just do it. From the first movie. And he's able to catch up somehow, right? Tom Cruise barely able to do it in 2.5 minutes on his proof of concept. And then Rooster is able to go through most of the thing really slackly and then somehow catch up. Whatever. And then, so here's some nitpicks. So that was a little nitpick. He was like, well, like they were just barely getting this mission done in time with the proof of concept, and now during the mission seems pretty effortless. And then the laser guiding thing for Rooster doesn't work, so he just has to do it blind, and of course it makes it in, but it's like, what? Like, okay, just that's just like I don't know. It was noticeable, not a huge thing, but it's like right when the missile guiding laser thing isn't working, it's like, and he says, I'm going to do it blind. It's like, okay, obviously it's going to go, and of course it goes directly where it needs to go, which is like, whatever, okay. And then it's this crazy chaos that happens when they're not even done. Getting out is the hard thing, right? Getting in is one thing. Getting out is a hard thing. Which I thought all of that stuff was great. All of that stuff. And even after that, right? They say, Maverick saves Rooster, and then Rooster goes back to save Maverick. Great back and forth. They even argue, I'm trying to save you. No, I was trying to save you. Great. Love that back and forth, right? And even when they go to get in the old museum piece, right, which I think is another line from the first one, in this old fighter jet from the first Top Gun, pretending to be them, and then somehow get out. Little nitpicky, but not whatever. Maverick is able to take off in a much shorter runway than necessary, right? He's able to do magical things in these planes. Whatever. The other nitpicky thing, what was the other nitpicky thing? I guess those were the only real two nitpicky things I had. Him dropping it blind and then able to catch up. Like, Rooster was able to do some magical stuff in this movie as well. But great. I mean, even definitely emotional, even in the beginning of this movie where you see Tom Cruise, who's still a test pilot, still pushing the boundaries, still rebellious, breaking rules, breaking orders. Right, he's trying to go Mach 10 in this new test plane and is somehow able to do it, and then tries to push it even farther, and then of course blows up. There's the scene with him going into a diner and asking where he is, and the kid's like, Earth. Like, it's a funny, great scene, right? Because he looks like he's a spaceman. Even his like sidekick guy Hondo, who was there for the test flight thing and then there during the training stuff, great. Oh, another nitpicky thing. The team building thing that Maverick does, right? Because they need a scene, right? In the first movie, it's a scene where they're shirtless playing volleyball, right? A lot of criticism of the first movie, how it's, homoerotic or whatever. So they needed to change that up in this movie. They need to make it more manly, more alpha male, right? So instead of playing volleyball, we're going to have them play football on the beach, right? So we can still get those beach shots, dudes off with their shirts, right? Okay, cool. But the way they're playing football is with the two balls and everybody's playing offense and defense at the same time, right? Just looks ridiculous. It is the most ridiculous thing. It would have been fine if it was just regular football. But they had to add the extra element of this chaos of two people playing offense and defense at the same time. Makes no sense. Maybe that's something that's a thing people do. I've never seen, heard of, or it was like they needed a scene to have these characters with their shirts off, and they got that, right? Sports, more manly sport with football, but then for some reason, somebody had the idea we should have two footballs.
I want to take a quick break from the show to let you all know that there is official merch for the Ray Taylor Show. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com. You can get t-shirts, different artwork available, different designs, all on high-quality materials in all the sizes. There's also iPhone cases made of biodegradable material. That's right. This is not bad for the environment. This is good for the environment. So all of those designs that are available on t-shirts are also available on phone cases. Designed by me, sold by me. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com to support The Ray Taylor Show and promote it out in the world so all of the people in your life can see that you are a fan of The Ray Taylor Show. Now, let's get back to that very show right now. The casting of Miles Teller was great. Like, the way his mustache and the way he wore those sunglasses so much looked like his quote-unquote dad. So much like imagery looked like Goose, which was great, right? Which clearly made the fact that Maverick, struggling with the fact that he lost Goose, blames himself, doesn't want the same thing to happen to his son. You know, the scene of them singing Great Balls of Fire in the first movie and then his son playing the piano in that bar. Great. All that stuff's great. Don't really need to get into the other pilots necessarily. There's little introductions in the bar. We get to see a little bit of them. But the majority of the film is Maverick and Rooster dealing with this loss of Goose and how that's impacted both of them, how that's made Rooster a little bit tentative, right? Holding back, being way more cautious, how that's made Maverick way more concerned with the lives and safety of the pilots. And then you still have the people in charge really caring more about the planes than they are about the humans flying the planes. And it brings up the whole thing of, you know, drones taking over, which is like, this whole mission would have been easy if they had used drones, right? Like, have a drone fly in, drop the thing, and you can sacrifice the drone. Hell, you could just fly the drone into where the things are, right? Instead of putting people's lives and all this money for these planes at risk. Like, a drone they could have sent 100 drones to go execute this same mission, never putting a human life at risk. But we got to have this movie, right? We got to have a reason why there's pilots. We got to have a reason why, you know, Maverick has to go back and train these new top pilots to do this mission, this impossible mission. But I loved it. And even the Jennifer Connelly stuff, it really feels tacked on. You know, it's fine. I guess you have to have a love interest. It's a character that was only mentioned briefly once in the first movie, right? Penny, the daughter of a captain or whatever. And there's the thing with the daughter, don't you leave my mom again, right? And she takes him on extreme sailing, which that was fun. You know, it's fun, I guess, and it wasn't a big part of it, right? Just adding a little dash of romance to this action movie, right? Don't really care, but, you know, it's fun. There's a little back and forth fun in the bar, right? So it's got some fun moments to it. You know, it takes it away from just being about the pilots all the time. So I liked it, you know. I liked the action was a lot of fun. The simple nature of it. And really, you know, you have the fun moment in the beginning with the test pilot. You have the fun moment where they're kind of starting to do the training, and then you have Tom Cruise, you have Maverick pull off this thing in under 2.5 minutes. And then you have the actual mission, which is kind of crazy. And then there's the rescue mission that's crazy as well. And then even Hangman coming at the last minute, right? Like, on some level, you always knew there's no way they're going to kill these people off. But there's still that tension because you never know, right? You never know. And it was pretty great. Do that pilot shit, you know? That just him yelling that, and both of them, like, talk to me, Goose, talk to me, Dad. Don't think, just do. Like, all the little kind of catchphrases from the first one I thought were really good. It's not the plane, it's the pilot, right? And, you know, Maverick kind of showed that, flying that museum piece, which I thought was a lot of fun. Let's see if there's anything. Yeah, I think that's it. A lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Not surprised that, I mean, it's a perfect action movie, I would say. You know, got great action, has enough ingredients to make it to, you know, round it out a little bit so it's not just straight action. It's got the heart. It's got the instant, you know, stakes with Goose's death. I love that it really is a movie that honors Goose. It's a movie that also honored Tony Scott at the very end, shows respect. It had a lot of respect for the original movie. I think it improved on a lot of the things the original movie did. You know, honored Val Kilmer, brought him into the role back, you know, into the movie despite his situation. John Hamm played a great, you know, kind of the bad guy, similar to the first movie, you know, the Admiral. So all that stuff I really did enjoy. And even the other pilots are pretty fun. You know, Hangman, douchebag kind of a guy. But yeah, a lot of fun. Not surprising. Definitely surprising that Joseph Kosinski went from making this to making the complete garbage movie that is Spiderhead. But, you know, I'm excited. I love the Mission Impossible movies, so I would say this is definitely feels like, you know, it has that same kind of vibe as a Mission Impossible movie, but a little bit more simple, you know, which I'm fine with. Minimal, I'm good. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Obviously, I'm sure everybody's seen it that wants to see it, but it's great. I'm glad I finally got to see it. I see what the hype is. Will it be on my top 5 list of 2022? I will be doing my top 5 movie list here coming soon in the next coming weeks. So we will see, because it is a great movie. But there's a lot of great movies that came out this year, so I don't know where it'll find. But it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I'll probably be watching it more. I'll probably be putting it on multiple times in the background just because the action scenes are so much fun. It's so much fun. I wish, like, it makes me want to set up my projector and turn the volume up and experience it even more like it would be in a theater. But check it out, Top Gun Maverick, if you haven't. Way better than the first movie. A great movie. You don't need to see the first movie, but if you have seen it, all of the references, and it does a lot of stuff to honor the first movie and pay respect, and a great movie. Highly recommend it. Maverick. Top Gun Maverick. Maverick, Top Gun, Maverick, Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick. Do that pilot shit.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.